Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well as the bell icon down below to get notified whenever we drop an episode. This episode and the whole season of the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Whether you like it mild or hot, chunky or cantina style, the people over at Two Men have you covered. Not only do they have the basics down to a science, you can also find their salsa in varieties like mango, strawberry, and peach. They even offer a sugar-free version. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery store or online at twomeninthegarden.com. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa. That's on Instagram and Twitter. Pete. A lot of smoke going around Billiken fandom right now with Yuri Collins. Pete, are we getting into that?
I think there are 3 or 4 different threads on the message board right now, all about Collins. He's, for whatever reason, he's more of a deep dive, lightning rod, whatever you want to call him, type player than anybody else. The biggest thing we ever did was an emergency show about Yuri Collins possibly leaving. It seems like people can discuss every possibility with that guy all day and never get tired of it. It's really interesting to me. Why him more than anybody else that people just want to talk about. But yeah, I guess, Zach, if the rumor is that he'll be withdrawing from the draft and possibly entering the portal as a grad transfer pretty soon.
I thought that like deadline passed.
Well, okay, so I think May 11th was the deadline unless you're a grad transfer. Like for him, it would be a first-time transfer. He's a grad transfer, so I don't think there would be a waiver in that case. If he were a junior or a senior, or if this were his second or third transfer, I think that would be a different story. But in his case, I'm pretty sure he would be immediately eligible regardless.
So he can stay in the draft as long as he wants?
I don't think that's the case. I think he still has to technically withdraw. But now we're getting into weird rules. I'm not sure. And a lot of things have changed too, right? Because like he played in events that normally mean like the guy's going pro, he's not coming back. But it's a kind of a different era now, right? I mean, a lot of people we thought were going are coming back. I think Dayton is still uncertain if Holmes is coming back. A lot of people there are talking about whether he's coming back or not, and the rumor is that he will come back, not enter the portal, but actually come back to school at Dayton. But yeah, we just don't know yet. The fact that there are multiple guys in the A10 alone that we're talking about with this leads me to believe that there's still time, even if I don't know all the dates and rules and deadlines.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think a lot of the deal with Yuri Collins is you're the focal point. You're going into your senior season and everyone knows that you're going to be the lightning rod for this team or the engine that drives the car. And you just kind of up and enter the portal. I think we saw a little frustration from Gibson Jimerson on Twitter back then. So, I mean, you can see how people might feel a certain way about the way he handled things. I think I talked about this when it first happened, that it'll be interesting to see if either Yuri or individually or the team struggles, how do Billiken fans react? And I think we're seeing that now, given that, there's a lot of people that we've laid blame on for missing the tournament. Ford, obviously being that main, the main blame. But because Yuri Collins is the next best thing to blaming Travis Ford. I mean, he is an extension of Ford on the floor. I think it's only natural that given, his decision to enter the portal, Billiken fans aren't happy, with him and the way he's handled things.
Yeah, and it seems like the reaction's been mixed, right? I mean, like there are people who saying they would take him back in a heartbeat, and maybe Medley having a year under him wouldn't be the worst thing, and there's no denying his ability. Maybe with some different personnel, things work a little bit better. But it seems like the majority are kind of like ready to move on. You know, it's this, as you just said, it's the second year in a row where we've seen him put his name either in the draft or in the portal or both. We'll find out soon. And he can't come back next year, but it's like, I don't necessarily feel like you get to do that twice in a row to a fan base and get welcomed back with open arms. I mean, I guess it's not true of everyone, but I think most people are just kind of like, hey, even if he would help us this year, even if there's a need, they just feel like they kind of want to move on. It's
Yeah.
been a long time. It's been a lot of drama. And I think a lot of people are just kind of scarred from how last season went, not according to expectations. And they're just kind of ready to move on. Like they'd rather watch a freshman, struggle through his transition than watch him sit another year while Yuri leads the charge. So I don't know. It's been kind of interesting. I have to say I've skimmed a lot of that kind of discussion just because there's only so much of people saying the same thing in circles that I could take. But it's definitely a situation we're watching closely.
Yeah, I think people are, you look at ready to move on, and you don't necessarily want to keep you kind of want to get rid of all the skeletons from last season. But I mean, Jimerson seems to be more of, a positive force. And for whatever reason, I whether it's the fact that Yuri entered the portal under dubious circumstances surrounding Kentucky, or not Kentucky, Tennessee, and potential tampering and whatnot, that Gibson's a little more of a positive force coming back. You're willing to say, hey, like Gibson, you can transition better into this new kind of roster makeup. Terrence Hargrove, obviously, just a one of a kind athlete. He's getting better, I think, every year. And of course, he's just a positive force in general when you see him out there on the bench or on the court. So, again, and I think that's why fans are kind of, yeah, those two, we're happy to carry them over, even though they have a little bit of that underachieving stench to them.
Well, the guys you're talking about too, it seems like they are eager to take on leadership roles that they haven't necessarily had before, right? I mean, Hargrove and Jimerson were both veterans, but there were always guys more veteran than them, or in literal positions of leadership on the floor, like Collins as a point guard. They were surrounded a lot of times by grad transfers, people who had been around a long time, who are older, whatever. I would like to see them kind of relish that role as the leaders on this team. It's something different for a guy who comes off as a little more quiet like Jimerson, a guy who's energetic like Hargrove. Much different personalities, obviously, but I think they both have a lot to offer in terms of leadership on this team to a lot of new players, a lot of guys who are younger than them now. It's just a completely different dynamic. And I have to think that they've got to be feeling like, it's a little bit different when you're like the senior, right? Like you just walk through the halls with a little bit different swagger. And now they're going to get that opportunity, and that's pretty cool. And I'd like to see them kind of make the most of it. And if that's kind of what it feels like, the vibe you're getting off of them, I hope that's the why.
Yeah, I kind of called an audible there for a minute. I kind of was like, I think we should lead with a little Yuri Collins. And I think again, I'm just waiting for whatever he does, man. Like whatever he does, if he continues on with the pro career, I will think a little bit more of him than if he goes into the transfer portal. And it's not that I think he owes us anything or anything like that. I just don't like the way he's handled kind of his business, and it is now a business.
Mhm.
You could sit here 3 years ago and when the portal kind of kicked off and uh be like, okay, yeah, I mean, whatever, dude, go over to wherever. But now there's money being thrown around, right? So you don't get to have your cake and eat it too in avoiding the serious criticism for what you do on and off the court now.
Yeah, I think that's right. It does change everything in that relationship between player and fan. And, not necessarily for the better. You're going to see more ugliness around it. But at the same time, I guess there is some degree of sort of, accountability that they're going to have to learn quickly as well, for a lot of these guys making money really for the first time. And, I think the fact that fans are kicking into a lot of what these guys are doing, getting paid, whatever, there's just a different level there. There's a different dynamic that is a lot more pro like. Hey, I buy these expensive tickets. I want to see you perform. I contribute to this NIL collective. I want to see you perform. It's just a different level. And add to the fact that gambling has opened up in a big way in sports now too. And you're seeing a lot more pressure from fans on athletes in that regard as well. So it's a lot at once for these guys. Um, but at the look, it's early stages of all of this, and I think we'll get into a more comfortable phase of it. But you know, I don't know. I don't know where to leave it with Yuri Collins other than I do wish him the best. It would be painful to see him go on to some kind of pro career if he does play at another school next year, because
Mhm.
that school name is always going to be next to his name. You know what I mean? Even though he gave SLU 4 years, if he went to, I don't know, say
Oh,
K-State for a
yeah.
season,
What if?
he's always going to have K-State next to his name wherever he goes and plays pro. And I don't love that. Now, look, I still think he's a long shot for the NBA, even in the long term. But I think there's still money to be made for him in basketball somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, best of luck to Yuri. I hope he can make a little more responsible decisions. I guess I mean, I don't want to say, respond. I don't know how to describe it. I guess maybe more purposeful or I don't know. I really don't know where I'm going with that, Pete. I just
They're getting paid, but they don't have PR teams, right? I mean, like
yeah, I'm
they
waiting
could
for
take
the
advice, but it's not the same. It's
I'm
not
really
pro in that regard.
I'm really waiting for the first time where somebody actually comes out where like they gave them NIL money and then like some player just does not fulfill the obligations and
Oh,
they
get
get a
get ready for that.
lawsuits.
Yeah.
I mean, Nancy Kerrigan-esque situations. I mean,
Oh man.
I mean, I seriously, we're talking,
Yeah, I mean, well, that's kind of what I'm saying too, with the regards to NIL and gambling at the same time,
yes,
accelerating like that. Like they went from being a lot, and this is across a lot of sports too, from being relatively low key niche sport athletes to like in a big pressure cooker now,
yeah.
and that's yeah. There's going.
I
God,
feel
who
like
knows?
legit NIL, like the kind of dudes that would like give serious money to a collective, like serious money, are the same people that would gamble like
Oh
serious money.
well, I mean,
Like you're talking, like I feel like there's a shady subsect of the people that would give money to an NIL collective that are, giving money to that NIL collective, but also degenerate freaking gamblers.
well, I mean, hey, I think I'm shocked at how many people are gambling on sports now. Like people I've never known to gamble at all are now asking me, like on a Tuesday night, like what I think about SLU against so and so, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I would never bet on this team, one way or the other. I just so I think there is, for one, a lot of people doing that. I mean, I think that, look, the people who give the truly big money to NIL, like the top tier of boosters, you don't get that wealthy by being stupid
Correct.
with money and
You know,
and
I
gambling
should
on college baseball or whatever.
Yeah, I would probably
Yeah, I think
amend
it's
my statement, but I'm saying like there's
there's definitely
gotta
a
be,
tier.
yes,
Yeah, right. I agree
where
with that.
yeah, and I think schools got to be careful with that. And I think
Right.
that again, I know we paint out the NCAA and the schools as the enemy. Well, I don't. I truly don't care how you paint them, but like I know people do. But I mean, it's gonna be on these schools to protect players from shady NIL deals, shady NIL agent deals. I'm looking at I'm thinking about a certain person around here,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So I think it's important, and it's important to, that's gonna be the real thing is you look at some of the stuff that came out on social media. How does that affect the locker room? What nobody like it doesn't matter if it's true or not.
Right.
Like once it's said, it's said. It's kind of the thing where, you put out a headline, oh, got to correct it. So you correct it with a little footnote at the end
Right.
of page 10.
Right. So you're talking about rumors about like players getting different things, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
I mean,
right.
that really is the immediate professionalization of a locker room. And that's something
Well,
like I feel bad for college coaches like Travis Ford, who's like, I've been doing this for 3 decades. And now I have to manage players who are bitter because other guys in the same room are getting paid more. Like it's one thing to be like, I think my minutes should be higher and I think he's getting favored or whatever. But it's nothing to be like, oh, he's also getting more money than me on top of that. Like it's a much different thing that like you never when you get into none of these guys who have gotten into the profession who are head coaches now necessarily were prepared for that, even if they knew conceptually this might be happening someday.
yeah.
It's a totally different dynamic, and yeah, I mean, just get ready, you
I
know.
mean,
I mean,
you wonder if the whole thing about the NIL collective is kind of like, look, guys, I don't know if I can, like, it's one thing to be able to build the team, but I don't know if I can manage that team with a
mhm.
bunch of guys that are gonna demand money.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's impossible, honestly.
So I
We've
mean,
already,
I mean, but you understand why they would put out such a directive, I guess, for the Billiken Victory Fund. I mean, it solves the problem before the problem arises, I guess.
yeah, I think so. I mean, to at least put some terms behind it, because as we now know, you're recruiting all players at all times, right? Like the guys on your roster, you're recruiting them still. You're recruiting the portal, you're recruiting junior college, high school, everywhere, all at once. And yeah, I mean, think about like a Brock Vice situation. There's a guy we had committed for a long time, very suddenly gone. And it's striking, it's striking, right? Like um how fun is it to put together a roster? Like here are my ideal players at this level that I can put this roster together, but it's never a static situation. You never you never feel like you're actually done. You're always building that roster. It's an ongoing process, and it's got to be frustrating. I mean, look, they're well compensated for what they do for the most part, but it's I do feel their pain a little bit when you're like trying to chart out what my team is going to look like 2, 3, 4 years from now, and how do we correctly build this roster? And you just can't do that anymore. You're scrambling every March to make the pieces fit. And
Jesus.
yeah, I know. And on top of it, trying to keep all those guys content. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I think you really do. It's a little hokey, but we talked about it before. I think you really do recruit personalities to fit a culture.
Mhm.
Um, I think character dudes are going to mean a lot more in this sport going forward. You're looking at your Hargroves and Thatches and Jimersons and just really solid dudes, who believe in their place and their people, and um, guys who can give you some continuity is just going to be more valuable than a guy who comes in from one year and may or may not work.
we talked about how Rick Majerus might fare in the age of NIL. Maybe he'd find. Maybe I mean maybe he could. You know, yeah. It
He
seems like
he
maybe he might have an advantage.
he had a lot of players leave on him in an age where not as many guys transferred, right? I mean, think of how many players he brought in who just didn't last, um, for whatever reason. I mean, mainly because
Well, he's a hard ass.
he's tough. Yeah, so like I think there are always going to be guys who like see the vision and get it, and maybe they're feeling like they're taken care of just enough to hang around, right? I mean, like I think,
Like a
and
Jimerson.
I'm not saying do the bare minimum, but I think there are going to be those guys who see the value in developing in one place and not just chasing whatever money looks best this year and next year and next year. I think there are going to be a lot of players from this era when they get to their 30s and 40s look back and say, like, probably should have hung around there another year. I probably should have gone with this school instead of that one out of high school. And obviously guys have always done that, but it's just the amount of movement there is now, chasing the next shiniest thing, chasing your best offer instead of what might be the best spot for you long term. This is just going to be an interesting thing to talk to people about down the road.
Yeah. I don't know where exactly we go from here because I just completely bogarted the notes.
I think we go. I think we go to Chattanooga, and I just want to give us your experience. I want to get a little recap. You did an Ironman, what they call a 70.3, down in Chattanooga this weekend, and I want to hear about it because I know you finished. I know we do have some listeners who are following along, and I know you're still sore and tired and everything that comes with putting your body through that.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a rundown of that?
Yeah, I got down there Friday afternoon. Actually got in pretty early and then kind of just checked the bike and went down and checked in and then Saturday got out to swim in the above the reservoir or whatever above the dam because the river's where we swam. But yeah, I actually knew there was another Zach Miller in the race and
Yeah,
we're
that was
driving.
confusing.
Yeah, so we're driving. We're leaving the lake after getting in the water and testing it out, and getting a feel for it. And I'm walking, or we're driving, and I'm pulling around this car, and I see a guy wearing a suit that says Miller on the back, and I go, if I don't stop and say something, and that was him, like I'm gonna. So I stopped.
Right.
I'm like, Zach Miller from Chicago. He goes, Zach Miller from St. Louis. I go, yeah. So yeah, so I mean the odds of for reference, there was 2,300 participants in this event. So I
Right.
mean that's preposterous odds, but yeah, Sunday, swim bike run, a mile, 1.4 mile swim, 56-mile bike and a half marathon, 13.1. I finished in 5 hours, 6 minutes and 13 seconds. The hills of Chattanooga really suck.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything. Yeah, nothing. It was, I mean, nothing crazy. I almost got, kind of rubbing his racing, had somebody try to pass me and I was trying to pass somebody else and they nearly bumped me off. Like we just collided, and stayed up and everything's fine. The run was just, it was hot and there was hills and but yeah, it was a good time and happy with my performance. I wanted to go sub 5 hours. That's kind of a benchmark, but
Yeah.
I had a bit of a stitch in my side on the run, and it took me about a mile and a half to get that out. But yeah, it was a good time. It's definitely a money pit. I'll tell you that much. Of an experience, you pay a ton to go there and for your Airbnb, and then of course they got all the merchandise that you gotta buy. You gotta exit through the gift shop.
Sure.
But yeah, Chattanooga's interesting, man. it's like every other block is different. Like you'll go like one block and it's like a little rougher, then you'll go another block and it's like really like kitschy hipster antique stuff, and
Yeah.
then you'll go another block and it's rough again, and but downtown is really pretty, and I didn't get to see the aquarium, didn't really do much down there.
We're actually going there with the kids in the end of July, like the last weekend of July, staying right by that baseball stadium, and we're
Yeah.
gonna take them to a ball game. And there's a children's museum, aquarium, a bunch of stuff right downtown. So we're staying for like 3 or 4 days before we head over to the Smokies. But I've heard it's a nice place. I've just never been.
Yeah, we had I think the only time we went out to eat was Mellow Mushroom on Friday night, which
Mhm.
I don't know why. Like it was just right there, and I was like,
They're always good.
Yeah, and then what did we had Taco Mac, or I think, which isn't actually like a taco place
Yeah.
at all. It's just a sports bar. I don't
Is
know,
that
but
where
their wings were good.
you got? I was gonna ask if that's where you got your
Yeah,
wings.
yep. So yeah, it's a tradition. So
Good.
got to.
Well,
But
congrats on finishing and that, putting a respectable performance together. That's this has been a lot of work for people who
yes.
think Zach's been a little quieter than usual lately. He's been
Oh
training hard.
God. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna step up to an Ironman anytime in the near future, but probably do another 70.3 next year. It's a good time.
Is
Maybe go
that
to
that's half? Is that what you're saying? So like a
yeah, so
full would be
yeah,
140.6.
140.6.
Jeez
I
Louise.
ate, dude, it's preposterous. I'll just explain this to you. I ate probably 2,500 calories, ate and drank between the two, 2,500 calories within that 4 5 hour time frame.
So just while you were going,
Yes.
in the form of what? I mean, not
Uh,
not wings on the bike, I
yeah,
know.
no. So gels,
Yeah.
which are just like, I like to think that they're just like emulsified bananas. Like that, they kind of match the macros, like the carbs per calorie of a banana is kind of the same. So I had, yeah, I mean gels, and then Gatorade Endurance,
Mhm.
and then I had, yeah, like I think I had a thing of salt, yeah, a salt tab, just basically, and then on the run I had a gel every 15 minutes. So I did every 30 minutes I ate a gel on the bike, and every 15 minutes on the run I ate a gel. So yeah, it was
Wow.
my stomach is feeling wonderful right now. Yes. Yeah.
Well, you made it. That's
Yes,
what
I
counts.
did. Let's get the things that most of our listeners care about. Well, the, you know, we talk about NIL, and we talk about the money and the basketball and the on field, but they're still here, and they're the athletes, and they're here to get an education in a lot. Actually, most of them are. I would venture to say 98% of Billiken athletes are here to get a degree and go into the non-sports world as adults.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always impressed when I see like what degrees they're getting too, right? I mean, like so many of them. Like, man, I had a way easier major and I was a manager, not an actual athlete who had to like, lift and work out and be there longer hours and stuff. Or at least different hours anyway. But yeah, this was graduation weekend at SLU, and we do want to extend our sincerest congrats to everyone who earned a degree. Especially all those athletes that we do discuss on the show every week. We know some of them will move on to other professions now, and some are going to come back to play another season while they work toward advanced degrees or certificates or whatever. And we just want to acknowledge the hard work that goes into what they all do. So, congrats to the class of 2023. And we do wish you the best of luck in whatever your stage might be, your next stage might be.
Really neat moment for Billiken soccer fans, St. Louis soccer fans. Johnny Klein, guest of the show. He signed a short-term loan from St. Louis City 2, and he made his MLS debut. Actually, he played 2 games this weekend, Pete. He played in City 2's game on Sunday as well.
Man, unbelievable. That was cool. I was watching the City game when he came in, 78th minute sub. By this point they were already up 4-0 on KC, but I understand, Zach, that you made a promise that you've got to make good on.
I did. Also, I did not make it to the start of that game on Saturday night. I was out before 8 p.m. But yeah, no, I am. I said John, I told Johnny when he came on the podcast, there would be a City jersey up there with Klein on the back of it if he made, when he made the first team. So as soon as I get a chance, Johnny Klein's going on the back of the jersey.
That's awesome.
So
Promises
yeah,
made, promises kept. That's what we're all about.
absolutely.
And by the way, how many MLS players have we now had on? I mean, it's just it's rapidly growing.
3, Klein, Betcher, Schulte.
Yeah, that's not bad for the short lifespan of our show.
Not bad at all.
Right.
Brian McBride, come on the podcast.
Yeah, Tim Ream, what's up?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot. I think I just mixed up McBride and Tim Ream.
That's Bride would be great to talk to.
Congrats, Tim Ream, on getting that little misnomer. Pete, there is some, we do have a new offer out, man. Men's basketball. Let's get back to it.
We do have a new offer. I happened to stumble across this when I was looking for something else on Twitter, but we offered the other day Trent Noah, a 2024 wing out of Harlan County High School in Kentucky. Those of you who watch Justified, that's the part of Kentucky we're talking about here. He plays his AAU ball for Midwest Basketball Club on the Adidas 3SSB circuit. He's 6'7", 200. He's primarily a scorer, kind of mostly a wing scorer. He's a big time 3-point shooter. He's elite from the free throw line. He shoots about 90%. He can get to the rim, draw fouls. He makes plays for his teammates, but he's just got really good size for what he does. And I hate to make the easy comparison, just kind of based on what he looks like. But after watching some highlights, my first thought is they just had to pitch him like you could be the next Gibson Jimerson, right? And he's kind of blowing up right now. He's over 15 offers. Seton Hall is one of the bigger ones. A lot of A10 schools, Richmond, VCU, George Mason. And then he's got Belmont, Indiana State, Rice, Miami, Ohio, a few of the schools in Kentucky, and then, a few others. Good looking player. And I mean, just seeing how how his career has gone at SLU, you definitely have somebody to point to this kid and go like, you could thrive here. You could thrive in college. Here's how we would do it. And, here's the tape on that. So I think it's a compelling pitch. He's from Ford's home state. And I always like when we recruit Kentucky. So this looks like a really nice offer to me.
I watched the movie Air on Saturday while I was sitting on the couch all day, and it was about how they recruited Michael Jordan to be Nike. And I not like just I've been one of these days I'm gonna have to have you explain the process of like basketball recruiting, because it's weird, right? To be like the 7th team to offer. Like it's just like, what's the point? Like unless you really feel good, do all these schools really feel that good that they're gonna get this kid? Like what? It's just an odd dynamic, I think, for me.
There's a JUCO player who's actually, he transferred from Washington. Now he's going to Milwaukee, named Langston Wilson. And SLU was one of over 40 schools to offer him as a JUCO sophomore. I guess this would have been over a year ago.
Yeah.
Over 40 offers for him and that's as a JUCO recruit, right? Like not somebody that coaches were recruiting since he was a freshman or a sophomore in high school. I don't have any kind of magic formula for what's the right school to offer. Like what's the right number to be. You could be the first offer and you can get, passed by a lot of schools. You can come in right at the last minute, steal a kid away. We see that happen all the time. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. You just have to kind of have the person, the fit, all of those things kind of figured out. And yeah, so yeah, being his 16th or 17th offer or whatever we are. Look, the pool got crowded really quickly. I think most of these offers actually have come in the last few months for him. So his status has really blown up, and especially now that he's playing, in AAU events this spring. It happens a lot with these kids. But look, by the time you get to fall and winter, not all of those offers are going to be committable. A lot of those schools are going to have other guys who have committed. They're going to have moved on to other things. Maybe they'll have a coaching change in the spring. Like there's a lot of different things that happen between now and then. So it's not like he's going to have that many offers that he can commit to when he's ready to commit, or at any given time during his senior year. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think he's a really nice potential fit for us, especially with Jimerson moving on, and you can map out for a kid what kind of career he can have for you.
Have you heard anything about transfers lately?
No. This week has been like silent in terms of like who's visiting, who's transferring. Really the only kind of two names that we've talked about. We know SLU reached out to Malcolm Dandridge from Memphis. So we know we're still looking at big men. And then the other one that people have been talking about is Caleb Love, because he decommitted from Michigan. And look, it's always a pipe dream when you know that these guys have like big time schools after them. Last time around with Love, we knew Indiana, Florida State, Mizzou. We're all looking at him. Those schools can likely all offer more money and status and TV for their conferences and things like that. We know that. We are still the hometown school, and we're not nobody, but that I'll believe it when I see it once again with him. But that's really the only other name this week that we've been talking about at all.
Yeah, it's bizarre with the Caleb Love situation, because it's about credits transferring, and there was a little murmurs about potential recruiting violations coming out of the that school out west.
Yeah, that's funny to me. First, I want to back up to the credits first, because he's coming from Michigan and North Carolina are typically two of like the top 5 public schools in the country, right? Like they're both, as in terms of public schools, along with like Berkeley and UCLA and Virginia and a few others. These are like the elite public schools. It's almost hard for me to believe that Michigan wouldn't take credits. And now there's all of these writers talking about how Juwan Howard's biggest challenge is the admissions department. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like you don't
Who
think
is it? Who is
Michigan...
it? Who was the SLU guy that they couldn't get in?
Oh, Craig Upchurch.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the Craig Upchurch.
The Craig Upchurch of Michigan. Well, I mean, you cannot field a top level D1 football program just with like high B and A students who are well above average on their, test scores and all. Like, come on, like you're a gigantic state school. You've been hiding dudes where you need to for years. I don't know if I even believe that story that it was about credits transferring or something. I mean, the only thing I could think of is that there was like a technicality on his major or whatever he was. I don't know. Maybe there are things that just wouldn't transfer
They don't have
over.
animal husbandry.
Right. Yeah. It's just such a...
I mean, he wasn't
weird
at the
reason for
South
me.
Harmon Institute of Technology.
He was not. No. And he's not like I never heard anything like at CBC, like he was just a kid who was not a good student or whatever. I mean, I'm sure he's fine. I don't know. It's just a weird story to me. But and now that we're hearing about potentially word getting out that he had an possibly impermissible meal with the Mizzou coaching staff. I mean, like that's an odd one too, right? Like it's just one weird story after another with this guy.
Yeah, it's what is it with St. Louis point guards and weird stuff?
They like drama. They like
do.
all the oddest headlines.
They do. Hey Pete, do we have an assistant coach yet?
No, we don't, Zach. And it's that's another front where anytime we've kind of started to hear something, it's gone away. And yeah, you kind of I guess look, because I guess there's still Christian Nunez who's out there
Yeah.
recruiting and doing the job of a third assistant until we have one. But I don't know what we're going to do on that front.
He's gotten good reviews from people around the program. People seem to like Christian.
Everything I've heard is that he's a great people person. The players love him. He knows how to treat people. Those are all, marks of a good recruiter. I think the other coaches really like him. And I don't know anything about his basketball acumen, like as a coach. I don't know. I just, as an outsider, it's tough to get a feel for those kind of things. But everything I've heard is that he really knows how to relate to people, and the guys really seem to like him. So he definitely has some of those attributes that you want in an assistant who's out there selling your program and trying to get players in. So look, I mean, there's it makes sense to me. With Tate, you've got a really, specific guy as your associate head coach who's like we talked about with Harry, who's like the mayor of St. Louis. And then we've got Harry himself, who you and I both know what a great coach he is. So I think getting a less experienced guy who knows how to recruit and get out there and is trying to build his career could make sense as a third assistant, honestly. So I don't know. I feel good about whatever we do with that last spot. I would just kind of like to see something sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you always talk about you can recruit if you don't, don't have any ties to the school, you can break rules. But I mean, are we really playing by any rules anymore in this in the NCAA basketball?
Yeah, I don't know what rules you have to break. I mean, it's now it's just like the fine line between like what a coach is allowed to say and when and stuff like that. But no, uh it's pretty wide open at this point.
Uh Looking at the A10 portal, we've got a handful of schools that did things. VCU, Dayton, Loyola, Davidson, St. Joe's, Fordham, UMass, and LaSalle all had bye weeks, so to speak, in this round of the A10 portal.
As did we. Yeah.
Yes. But we had some stuff go on at George Mason, Duquesne, Rhode Island, Bonaventure, and Richmond.
Yeah, nothing huge from most of these. Bonaventure, we knew Brett Rumpel was going. He's going to Manhattan. Blake Jones is out at George Mason. He's going to Montana. Neither of those really moved the needle much. Rhode Island did pick up Louisiana Tech transfer David Green. Could be a nice fit there. And then Richmond landed Delani Hunt from Wagner. I actually think he could be a really sneaky good get for them. But the one that really stood out to me was Duquesne got Dusan Mohorcic, who's a guy that SLU, I think, recruited 2 different times. And I think he's going, if I'm not mistaken, to his 5th or 6th school in 6 years. Like I think he's been to JUCO, he's been to Illinois State. I think he was out at like Utah or something like that. And then I'm gonna have to look him up now because I'm curious, but I know this guy has been all over the map, and I know that we at least reached out more than once. And one of those times, I think we were really one of his finalists. So he's just had a really NC State is where I think he's coming from now. Yeah, he was at Utah before NC State. Moberly Area Community College. I think he was there right before
Of
Sincere
Hoop
Parker.
Dreams fame. Is it Moberly or is that
That's Mineral Area
Yep,
College.
sorry.
Moberly's where Jimmy Bell went. It's where Sincere Parker went. So we know Moberly.
Our baby boy Jimmy Bell.
Yeah, and then his freshman season was at Lewis College, which is in like the Chicago suburbs, which is where he played his high school ball. But it's just amazing to me. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is his 6th college in 6 years. Just incredible that you can do that.
The women's basketball used to play Lewis all the time. I think under Jill Pizzotti, because Pizzotti was in Chicago.
Didn't one of the Diener cousins, like a sister, somebody play at Lewis too?
Yes.
So somebody played there at the time.
Brittany Diener, I think.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it was Brittany Diener. I don't know. I'll look that up later. But the reason I thought about women's basketball is because our trivia question winner of the week last week has a women's basketball question. But first, we'll actually get to that trivia question, and that was who was the last Billiken men's basketball player to have two words on the back of the jersey without one of those words being some form of junior, third, second, fourth, etc. Pete, who was that player?
Abdur Rahim Al Mateen, who played in the early to mid 80s at SLU. So that was, as we said last week, that was inspired by Stefan Bussel, who's coming here from the Netherlands in the very near future.
One of the more fun things are the like the Islamic names for basketball players. They're always the best. They're always the most fun to say.
Sharif Abdur Rahim.
Yes.
Yeah. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it?
A lot of good ones.
Well, who was that? That was, why am I thinking? Oh, that was, never mind. He was on the Nuggets, right?
Yeah.
He was like big time. But his topic was, I'd love to hear what's going on with women's recruiting right now and how next season might look. I'm not sure how much you can do that, but I'm still riding the high of last season.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of inspired me to do a deep dive on where they stand right now, honestly, because like I've been wanting to do that for a while. And what I realized is we really don't have a good database, a good place to go for women's basketball recruiting. Like I would love to see a place where here are SLU's offers for women's basketball. And there just really isn't that. I mean, my frustration with that on the men's side is kind of why I started doing what I started doing on Billikens.com like 10 years ago. I was like, I just want one place where I can just get the information. And I realized I just kind of had to do it myself if that was going to happen.
You're a special type of person.
I think I had a little more time on my hands 10 years ago too. But in terms of the roster, like here's what we know for next season, right? So let's start there. We know McMakin, Martinez, Clegg, Calhoun, Tillett, her daughter, Connor, Haidara, Nicastro, Kennedy, and Johns are all back. So that's a pretty good core coming back. You've got Brooke Flowers, Cheval Gull are both gone to graduation. And then we know Kylie Best, Sarah Lazar, and Abby Leiber all transferred out. And then we've also talked about the trio of signed incoming players, Brooklyn Gray, Markavia Shavers, Tiara Simon. They're all going to give SLU more size and rebounding, and in Gray's case, some more scoring punch too. So that's 10 returners and 3 signed newcomers. And Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think women's basketball has 15 scholarships. So that gives us 2 more spots for next season.
Yeah, it bumped up, I think, recently.
Right. And yeah, speaking of keeping people happy, imagine having 2 more scholarship players to to keep happy on your roster. It would be complete chaos on the men's side if they added to. So yeah, but as we just said, in terms of recruiting, information's a lot harder to come by on the women's side, both for the portal and for high school players. I have found a couple good spots for the portal though. There's I'll find it in just a second here. WBB blog. It's just WBBBLOG.com. And that's a pretty good resource overall. And they have a whole list of women's transfers. That's been pretty helpful as a resource for me. But what we do know about this staff is that their approach was to really build culture on top of continuity this season. I think it's safe to say they absolutely succeeded on that front. But they did kind of push recruiting, especially the high school level, out to a longer time horizon, a more long-term approach. So it didn't seem like they were really active at all in the 2023 class. And even 2024, we're not seeing a whole lot of activity at this point, but they're really looking to zero in on those younger classes. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're giving up on 2024 prep recruiting, but they just seem to be acknowledging that they're already kind of late to the game for rising seniors. So I would expect next year to be portal heavy again, as they're kind of replacing McMakin, Martinez, Clegg, and Haidara, if not more. But we also know that they're focused on building inroads locally and in the Midwest. And Coach Tillett doesn't seem to be just kind of leaning on her East Coast background at all. When you look at recent offers, I found 6 that I think give it a pretty good snapshot of what they're trying to do. One of the first ones was Peyton Hill from Incarnate Word High School, Nafisa Collier Elite AAU. She's a 2025 point guard from a storied girls program in the St. Louis area. A lot of people would know. We offered another point guard in that class, Aubrey Galvin from Deerfield High School up in Illinois, Chicago area, and she plays for Full Package AAU. Another one from that class is a power forward, Camden Ward from Stewart's Creek High School in Tennessee, and she plays for Team Pride AAU. 2026, this was a recent one, Kennedy Stowers, forward from Lutheran St. Charles, who won state this year. She had the game-winning layup, I believe. And then she also plays for Nafisa Collier Elite. And then a 2027 guard, so this is someone who hasn't even played in high school yet, Sabrina Anderson of Elevate Elite AAU. I'm not 100% sure where she's even going to high school. And then just in the past day or two, we saw an offer go out to Lily Bell. Zach, I know you liked her name. 6 foot, 2026 forward from Minot High School in Minnesota and Minnesota Stars AAU. So they're keeping it Midwestern. They're really looking on 2025 and beyond, it seems like, in terms of high school recruiting. I'm sure there's more offers out there, but those are the ones that we were able to confirm. And honestly, if anybody knows of a good resource, a database, anything for tracking women's basketball offers, just let us know. Like we're just really searching keywords out here and seeing what we come up with, unless they just happen to pop across our Twitter feed. But yeah, for the most part, like every once in a while, I'm just searching various word combinations on Twitter and seeing if I can find offers. And and a lot of
You've
times I'll
learned a
come up with,
lot about the city of St. Louis, I'm sure.
yes, yeah. When I'm looking up St. Louis offer, I find out a lot about what my hometown has to offer, real estate and things like that. For a while, it was coming up with a lot of sex workers on Craigslist and other places, which was not expected. It was not
I
expected.
didn't expect you to go there either.
No, I mean, hey man, you're never ready for that, right? Like I'm trying to find like, who have we offered in basketball? And it's like, oh, okay, that's not what I was looking for
I feel like
at all.
2000 like 14 was tough too. When Ferguson and Mike Brown,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
with that, just not cluttered up, but you know what I mean? Like it clogged up
Right.
the St. Louis feed on Twitter.
And still ongoing, you can't look up anything about SLU volleyball on Twitter, because anytime you look up St. Louis volleyball, you come up with that horrible car accident. That player who was visiting for a tournament and got hit.
Yeah.
That's what it comes up with when you search St. Louis volleyball. So yeah, that's the tough part about not having a college that's kind of got its own name, right? Like that's not going to turn out a whole lot of other results, but when you're named after a big city as well, makes it a little trickier. But Zach, this week for the trivia question, we kind of dropped the ball. I think we were both a little busy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think next week we're going to do a poll, right?
Yeah. I want to know which Billiken men. We've done a lot talking about the star player and what from last season, what he's going to do, what he did the season before, But I want to talk about which men's basketball player saw the greatest improvement over, we'll say, his career at SLU, but like I am imagining a 4-year career here. But yeah, I think there's different ways to look at this, Pete. And we're going to give some options of what we think, and we'll definitely allow some write-ins, and or maybe we'll take some requests for the poll. We'll just take a sampling and then make it a poll.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
And then have people vote from there, because you're right, there are a few different ways. Like everybody talks about the Conklin summer, right? And but this kind of forces you to go back and look like, well, how productive was he as maybe a freshman or a sophomore? And then you were mentioning, and I kind of like this idea, the guys who are the former walk-ons, who became contributing players, your Phil Hansen, Aaron Hines, and Paul Eckerleys, and guys like that who earned their minutes, earned their scholarships, and became rotation players, even though they came in as lightly recruited walk-ons out of high school. So There are a lot of different possibilities here. And I also don't think it's confined to a 4-year career, even though that's kind of the easiest way to think about it. And it gives you the most runway, right? Because there aren't a lot of guys who come in as juniors who don't play at all, and then seniors they're all conference. It doesn't happen a whole lot. So I think certainly the guys who are there at least 3 years give you the most opportunity to, come up with somebody who really had an arc of development.
I think there's also the evolved their game category, right? I like
Right.
to. I mean, I said, I threw in Jimerson's name because I thought he evolved.
Mhm.
He's evolved his game over the years. So there's that aspect, but you wouldn't necessarily consider Jimerson to be the greatest difference between a freshman and his fourth year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because he could definitely score as a freshman. So
Right.
yeah, a lot of different ways you could take it. But yeah, let's put that out there earlier in the week. Get some ideas. We'll come up with a poll with what we think our top 3 or so might be, and then give them an other
You could
option as well.
you could almost phrase the question as like what player saw the greatest change positive change over 4 years,
Sure.
rather than improvement, because there's many different ways you can change positively as a player.
Yeah.
Whether it's adding things to your game or, Tommy Liddell adding a 3-point shot.
Yeah. A game changer.
Did not jump. He would not jump over a sheet of paper to shoot that thing. It was one of my. I don't know why I loved to do it on college, doing that on like college hoops 2K8, because he would do a little, like, he'd barely jump, and he'd also fade a little bit. And
Yeah.
if you like just clicked the X button real quick, tap it, just a little quick release fade away.
Never
Love doing
missed.
that. Yeah. Oh, it's the best. All right. Baseball, Pete. Not trending, with the VCU series, the Davidson series in the rearview mirror. That sweep, they go and they play Lindenwood on Tuesday, and we're not trending very good for the Billikens, and this past week.
No, on Tuesday the 16th against Lindenwood at home, by the way, it was a 9-1 loss. And you talk about trends, because this was the game where I was kind of like, okay, here's our bounce back, our confidence booster coming into this last series, coming into the conference tournament. Let's take care of business. And here you have a midweek game at home against a 10-41 team that's new to D1, and they go out and beat you 9-1. Cole Smith got SLU's only run on a solo shot in the fourth, but Lindenwood already had 7 runs at that point. I think SLU had 5 total hits. They used 7 pitchers. Dawson Smith got the loss because he pitched the first 3 and gave up a run. But he actually did better than pretty much everybody else who came in after him. So this was just a kind of puzzling all around performance. And it kind of had me scared. Like, oh man, did they lose any momentum, any mojo they might have had going into the weekend? But I think they kind of regained that confidence against Fordham, Zach.
Yeah, the first game of this series was on Thursday, the 18th. The Billikens beat the Rams 9-2. They got out to a 3-0 lead in the first and didn't look back in this one. Unlike the next two we're going to go over.
Yeah.
The Bills scored an efficient 9 runs on 10 hits from 8 different players. Patrick Close, he was 2 of 3 with 1 RBI and 4 runs. Cole Smith, 2 for 2, 5 RBIs and a 2-run jack. Henry Littman got the win, continuing his he's been the ace all season, that Friday pitcher.
Yeah, he's been good.
And he only gave up 1 run in 6 innings, Pete.
Yeah. Really solid performance.
Like I said, Friday and Saturday, a little bit different. What'd you see on Friday?
It was an 8-6 win over Fordham. Obviously, it's game 2 of the series. Cam Redding had a massive day. I mean, I think the headlines would all be about him on this one. To help SLU actually come back and beat Fordham in pretty dramatic fashion. Fordham led 4-1 after 6, and then Redding came up in the bottom of the 7th and hit a 2-run home run to put them within 1. The Rams got 2 more in the top of the 8th to extend the lead to 3 and make it look pretty bleak for SLU. But with 2-1 and 2 out in the bottom of the inning, Reading hit a 3-run shot to tie it. And then SLU kind of kicked into small ball gear. Cole Smith got hit by a pitch and then stole second. Tyler Fogarty singled him home before stealing second himself. And then Cameron Swanger made it first and third with an infield single. Along comes Knox Preston to drive Fogarty home with one last hit. And that wound up being it. Ethan Bell took the mound with a 2-run lead and retired 3 straight Fordham batters for the save. Strikeout, ground out, fly out. Nice poise from him in a kind of a crazy game. Colby Downard ended up with the win because he was on the mound for 4 innings of long relief before Bell came on to close it out. Reading ended up 2 for 4 with 5 RBIs and 2 runs, all of which came off his homers. So a nice day for him and really clutch too.
Yeah, shout out Colin Surrey for keeping the drive to Chattanooga interesting on Friday. Got to listen to his call of the game on ESPN Plus.
Nice.
And thanks for the shout out too, although he didn't name the podcast. Boo. Just kidding. Thank you, Colin. We love you. Saturday, the 20th, a 14-4 win over Fordham to sweep the series. The Billikens were down 4-3 heading into the 6th and proceeded to explode for a 7-run inning, adding 3 more in the 7th and 1 more in the 8th. Reading continued mashing the ball, picking up his 3rd homer in the past 2 games. Swanger hit another long ball for the Bills. Hayden Moore was 3 of 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. Sue got 2 hit days out of Fogarty, Costanzo, that's Joseph Costanzo, Cole Smith, in addition to Reading and Swanger. Fogarty and Swanger drove in 3 runs apiece, and Reading hit 4 homers, giving him 9 in the last. Or sorry, he hit 4 home. Sorry,
right. It's giving him 9 RBI.
I thought you just stink at typing.
Yeah, I know.
No, giving him 9 RBIs in the last 2 games. Billikens out hit the Rams 14-7, but it also helped that they took 11 walks in this one, including 4 from Cody Jansen. Is he Kevin Youkilis out there?
Or I think Colby Rasmus is the one who has the all-time record for the Cardinals.
I just remember
with 5 in a game.
I just remember in Moneyball, the Greek god of walks.
Yeah, of walks, Youkilis.
Yeah. Grant Fremion was on the mound for the first 5 innings, and all 4 of Fordham runs came against him, but only 2 were earned. It's a nice response from SLU after being swept in Davidson. They needed to finish off strong, Pete.
Yeah, they did. And the overall season record goes to 30-21 with a conference record of 15-9. SLU's actually the only A10 team to have reached 30 wins this season, although as we'll find out, that didn't mean that they were the top team in the A10. Because Zach, now we've got the A10 tournament coming up.
Yeah, and I think this is where your facilities really come into play, because if this is one of the years that SLU's hosting the tournament, you're hosting as a 4 seed. That's right in the wheelhouse. I mean,
yeah,
you look at, again, George Mason on the softball side, 4 seed, wins the tournament. I mean, they weren't hosting, but I mean, a 4 seed can win it, and hosting only can help you.
Yeah, that's right. And we know how much parity there is at the top of the league, how much the top 5 or 6 of the standings have shuffled constantly all year. I think it's going to be anybody's, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it really helps to have it at your place.
The Billikens will be the 4 seed. They will take on the 5 seed Richmond on Tuesday morning. Yeah, right now, like now, right now, turn it on. Go get your turn on now.
That's right.
This is a double elimination tournament, just with softball, just as was softball last week. But unlike softball, the top 7 teams get in, and not just the top 6, with the top seed getting a first round bye. Pete, run us down the seeds in this one.
Yeah, so this is going to be, 4 and 5, Richmond and St. Louis are going to take on the winner of not the winner, but they'll take on the 1 seed St. Joe's on Wednesday morning. After SLU and Richmond play, Davidson, Rhode Island play on Tuesday at 3 p.m. local time. I guess that's 2 p.m. St. Louis time. And then the evening game is number 3 Dayton and number 6 George Mason. You know, Zach, the crazy thing about this, we talked about how important it is to host. The host is VCU, and they did not make it. You know, it's only the top
Yeah,
7 that make it.
This happened to the Billikens one time.
Yeah.
I think for soccer. Yeah, I think
Okay.
we've talked about this before actually on the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And VCU wound up finishing 9th in the league, actually. George Washington was the
That's
8th seed that just missed
shocking.
out. It really is. It's such a reversal of last year. I mean, they can't have seen it coming. They actually lost their last 3. They had a shot to get in. But Rhode Island won out and they lost out. So kind of a crazy finish to the season too, because they were not number 9 all season long. That was a surprising thing. They were a little under 500 coming into conference play, but you never would have thought that would have happened. The other funny thing, Zach, is I'm actually going to be getting into Richmond during the finals. The Saturday game is at noon local time, and then they play a second game if the team that comes out of the consolation bracket wins, they play a second game. And who knows if SLU is in the final? There's an outside chance that I can persuade us to head over there for the game, but we'll see. It could be a tall task, because I think at that point my kids are just going to want to jump in the hotel pool or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe actually that gives me a reason to head over there. Again, a few things have to go right, and I don't think I'll go over there to watch Richmond play Davidson or whatever. But if SLU's in it, I might try and twist my wife's arm and make it happen.
We can't go without talking about track and field. Pete, we weren't sure when we recorded last week what the official word it was as far as NCAA bids for Billiken track athletes. And we got confirmation that not only Toby Gillen is going to the NCAA West preliminary rounds in Sacramento on the 24th to the 27th, but Evan Brenderman and Jaden Coadio are also in, but for the triple jump competition.
Yeah, and that's this week. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Yep. When I first looked at those dates, I thought, oh, that's the end of the month. That's a ways off. And now we're like, oh, that's this Wednesday to Saturday. Or as you're listening to this, if you listen on Tuesday, it's tomorrow that they get started. Brenderman and Coadio were the 44th and 45th seeds in a field of 48. So they barely got in, and they really didn't know until the last day whether it was going to happen. Their event begins Friday at 8 p.m. St. Louis time. They need to finish in the top 12 to advance to the championship. So they're long shots, right? They're clear long shots, but just to be there is so cool. And you just want to see them do as well as they can, outperform those seeds, right? And then Gillen's 5K race is at 10:10 that evening. He's either going to need to finish in the top 5 in his heat or have one of the 2 fastest times for those not finishing in the top 5 of the heat. As with the triple jump, the just 12 runners will advance to the NCAA championship final. Gillen's the 13 seed, Zach. So he's in a real, he's in a pole position in terms of like having a shot to get there. Not everybody is going to run exactly to their seed. There's going to be opportunity for him here. And we know how much he's just crushed it this season. So really, really excited to see what he can do. With the others, it would be amazing if they could advance, but with him, like he's in the mix for sure.
I gotta go. We gotta go back and look. I don't know if we've ever had. Did we have that high jumper?
I don't.
I'm trying to remember when the last person we had that made an NCAA championship meet.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll look into that. Pete, we got a new transfer on the women's soccer side of things. Now be careful with how you explain all this. We gotta watch out for.
Well, Jesus. I mean, look,
just explain it all.
As we saw on Twitter, on social media, all over the place.
Instagram.
Yeah, women's soccer got a new transfer. I don't know how to say her
Lubert.
last name. Lubert. It's just Lubert. Okay. Izzy Lubert is a defender from Arkansas, who will be a sophomore this fall. She's originally from Jefferson City and played her club ball with St. Louis Scott Gallagher. She announced on social media on the 17th that she'd be spending her next 3 years at SLU. She started twice this season for the Hogs and appeared in 13 games overall. Actually, her highest minute total this season, 57 minutes, came against SLU. So I guess they got a good look at her that game. Her older sister Sarah played for the Chicago Red Stars and is now with Club America in the Liga MX down in Mexico. I know it's pronounced differently, but give me a break. So she's got pedigree. She's coming from a school that was a top 10 school this year. And yeah, I mean, this could be a really nice pickup late in the cycle here.
On the volleyball side, another commitment for Andrea Beatty's squad. And this one has some familiar flavor to it, I think, Pete. Lucy Rankin, a 2024 setter out of North Oldham High School in Goshen, Kentucky. I probably said that wrong.
No, you said it right.
But she plays club volleyball for Kiva. And that was founded by Ron Cordes. You'll know that name because he is the father of former Billiken head coach Ann Cordes, who is fittingly the head coach for Lucy Rankin's club team. So, Beatty definitely working those recruiting relationships. And, Beatty was recruited by Ann Cordes before she left. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
We got a little tip that there was a job posting regarding SLU women's basketball assistant. What do you make of this, Pete?
And luckily that's public information, right? So you can just go look it up. But when you go to SLU's website and search athletic department jobs, there are 2 women's basketball assistant coaches listed, which is interesting. You would think there was just one. There's one listed as of 12 days ago as we speak, and one listed as of 4 days ago. What's funny, Zach, men's basketball does not have one listed. They have the coordinator job still listed, but not an assistant coaching job. And then what's even funnier, I don't know if it's funny, but swimming and diving head coach is still listed there as well. That one's I almost forgot about it. It's been so long.
They're looking for an assistant athletic director of sports medicine and wellness as well. Yeah,
right in our wheelhouse, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's our skill set. But yeah, it is interesting. I do forget to go check that page. But every from time to time, it is kind of fun to go check over there and kind of see. It can offer you some insights, some clues. So I don't know what this means for the women's basketball staff, by the way. It might be some writing on the wall, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, could it be that they could add another one? Like, did they get a bump in budget just to add another coach?
Well, the only thing I would say is that I think it's like the men's side, right, where you only get 3 recruiting assistants. So I think there's only 3 jobs that you can call assistant coach, and anything else would have to be like special assistant to the head coach, or this coordinator or that coordinator. Like there are other ways to create staff positions, but you only have 3 true assistant coaches.
Yeah. Looks like there's that coordinator position that's open as well on men's basketball.
Right. That's the one that Sarah had before, right?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that one's not a surprise. But anyway, the women's coach one is, and I don't know what that means or who might be moving on, or I have no idea. But it's definitely something we'll keep an eye on.
It's funny you forget that, like, there's actually the band director position's posted too.
Yes.
It's so funny you forget that people actually work there that aren't in the athletic department.
Right.
I think that wraps us up, man.
Yeah. I'm
ready to go to bed.
I am too. I did not run an Ironman and I'm still tired.
Yeah, my friend who went with me to help get everything together was like, yeah, I'm tired. I go, shut the hell up.
Yeah, right.
Shut up. I don't want to hear it.
So, that's a long drive. Ugh.
I know. Same day too.
Yeah.
It was brutal. But
I know.
All right. Well, that wraps up the week in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, and on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. Like, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Comment, review our show on all platforms. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.